Okay. So Zoom is still letting people in.
Yeah, that will continue for a while, it looks like.
Yes,
Bing, bing, bing.
you guys showed up in great numbers. Thank you. Okay, I'm just making sure. Ingo, you are a co-host. We're co-hosts. So if you see anybody, if I missed on the admit, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll just keep hitting admit all, and then they'll all keep coming in.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the live Zoom dissertation meeting tonight. I am Dr. Carlita Artis, and I am here with Dr. Ingo Tophoven. And we are bringing you all together again to talk about a new project in dissertation, Program Resource and Development Dissertation. Okay, you got it. Okay, awesome. So Dr. Tophoven and I are going to sort of take turns tonight talking about this new program resource and development project and answer just a few questions and just tell you a few of the updates that we're making as it relates to the dissertation process. So I'm going to jump in. And first, I just want to say good evening to everyone because people are still coming in. So good evening, good evening, good evening to those of you who missed my warm welcome. They're still coming, so it's just going to keep beeping.
Yeah. When you talk, I admit,
Okay.
and we change.
Awesome. And feel free to use the chat. I can't see it right now, but I will check it, and Dr. Tophoven and I will be also monitoring the chat when we're not speaking, okay? So
and I'm here as well. Dr. Ord is here as well.
Oh,
I can answer some
yes,
questions as well. Yep.
Thank you. That's Dr. Ord, our Dean of the School of Psychology and Counseling, here to answer questions as well. So I'm going to begin by going over the program resource and development dissertation piece. But before I do that, Dr. Tophoven, Dr. Ord, did you have any welcome comments or anything that you wanted to lead in with?
I just want to open up in a prayer, and yeah, there are some students here that need to think and pray about this whole thing. So what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. We're blessed to have lots of options in the new dissertation handbook, and really looking forward to interact with everyone on it. I know Dr. Ord, I believe, is driving, but she joined us anyway. So we're blessed to have our new dean with us, and we're going to have it maybe, no, don't close your eyes now as we pray, Dr. Ord. So let's go ahead and say a prayer.
Yes.
Father, thank you for the privilege of education. Thank you that we can take our faith freely into the realm of academic work. And Lord, I pray for each student right now as they are already have embarked or are looking at this new process and the new options available. Lord, may you guide us and lead us as instructors and professors, as well as every student. May the conversations that result from this afterwards also flourish and be in your spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Tophoven.
Amen.
Dr. Ord?
I don't have anything right now, but I'm excited about this meeting. I'm hoping that this will provide some clarity to some students. We also want to talk to you guys about some new and exciting avenues for dissertations. So I hope this will be a productive meeting and we can answer some questions for you all.
Yes. We are excited to share this information with you. So if everyone will be sure to keep your videos on mute, you can turn your videos on or off, but we ask that while we're speaking about some of these things, if you'll stay on mute, and then we'll open it up for questions along the way. And you can also put your questions in the chat, of course, and Dr. Tophoven and I will be monitoring the chat and make sure that we incorporate your questions into tonight's presentation.
Yeah, so a couple introductory comments on top of this. You have probably all received the new copy of the handbook. Some of you may have had a chance to read it since it only went out this week. Some of you have not. first of all, I encourage you always to be in charge of your process, meaning like read the handbook yourself and read the detailed information and options that are described in there. We have attempted to keep it short and sweet, but also offer all the steps necessary and share about the new dissertation types that are available. So having said that, I will stress that one of our goals has been in redeveloping the dissertation handbook has been to make sure that our dissertations don't become giant pieces of work that nobody reads, but have a very applicable avenue and trajectory into ministry, calling, mental health in church, and become something that is very useful, not only in your emergence as a scholar, but also in the people that you interact with, and hopefully that this would become a very usable set of work that you are doing. So that's part in summary of what we're looking at. And so we're excited to discuss that with you as we go along. This is just the starting point of multiple conversations, and program resource development dissertations are one of those. And that is a specialty of Dr. Artis, and she will lead us into presenting about that here right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Topman. So we let a few more people in. So to those people who just entered, good evening again, or depending on where you are around the world, good morning, good afternoon. So again, I am Dr. Artis. You just finished hearing from Dr. Tophoven, and Dr. Ord is on the presentation with us. I ask that everyone stay muted until we start discussing and opening up to questions. Please post any questions. Okay. So thank you for everyone who just joined us. Good evening again. More people. Good evening again.
I'll take care of new people coming in while you're talking.
Thank you. And so again, I'm Dr. Artis. That was Dr. Tophoven. If you just joined us, and Dr. Ord, our new dean, is on the presentation line as well. So I'm going to go in and talk about this new resource. It's not new to us. I always tell my students that dissertation should not be a secret. It's something that's been happening for a very long time. And I really like to think about it as in taking out anything that should be confusing. Let's make it plain. Let's get these dissertations done. And I know there's an old student saying that says a done dissertation is an excellent dissertation. Like, that's what we're going for. But we want to encourage you to have a wonderful experience while you're working on your dissertation. And really, for me, my dissertation was a way for me to give back to my community. And that's just how I see it. And so my background is in program resource and development, because I get really excited about creating things for our community, for our church family. And so I'm excited to share more information about program resource and development and how you can complete the dissertation, because to me, graduation is the most important piece of graduate school, so that you can, finish your education and go out and utilize what God has gifted you to be able to share with others who may not be able to have an opportunity to get this education or not know where to get information and resources from. Okay. So I'm excited. Some of you may know our mission, but I'm just going to go over it a little bit here again. The mission of our MHPS, which is our doctoral program, is to equip and train confident, compassionate, and effective doctoral level counselors, ministers, pastoral care workers, life coaches, and other practitioners and researchers who will support and strengthen the relationship between mental health and the local and global church. That is really one of our goals in our program. All of our programs is to really strengthen that relationship and take things, as you heard Dr. Tophoven allude to earlier, make them practical for our community and our church family. And so in addition, the faculty and staff aim to train confident and compassionate servant leaders and change agents for God who will fulfill Regent's mission within their perspective. Everybody knows that Regent's motto is Christian leadership to change the world. I was that before Regent, and when I came to Regent and I completed my PsyD, that was something that stayed with me. And I hope that that's something that you all really hold on to when you're working on your dissertation, that you really see yourself as the leader that you are, and that you can take this material and go out and do great things with it. So not to take away from anyone not knowing what a dissertation is, but I thought it might be important just to talk about not just a definition of just what even you see here, but I really want you all to read this, but I want you to hear me when we're talking about what a dissertation is. So a dissertation should be, on one hand, this scholarly body of research, that you pull from to create something to add back to the scholarly body of work, but also, as was talked about earlier, so it doesn't just sit there on the shelf either. We don't want it to just, all of us have our red books or our dissertation books and they're on the shelf, yay, woohoo. However, we want you to create something that you can immediately give back, if possible, to the community. And so the other piece of what I want to say to you all is I want you to be passionate. We want you to be passionate. We want you to come into your program or be in the program and pull from your strengths. Many of you, we found out, are, retired military, your mothers, grandparents, fathers, uncles. You have worked in backgrounds in accounting, backgrounds in counseling. Some of you have licensure. And so what do you want to pull from? Now, notice what I'm talking about. I'm talking about ministry. I'm talking about you taking your passion and your purpose that God has instilled in you and turning it into a dissertation. And some of you might be thinking, well, that sounds great. That sounds amazing. Sign me up. Well, I hope so, okay? Because that's what we want you to do. Pull from your passion of who you are. I have a background. I love marriage and family. Academically, that's where I come from. However, because my mom, as some of you may know, was also a hospice nurse. So I have a love for grieving families. I know a lot more than I want to know about, death and how to plan a funeral and those type of things. But I pulled all those things together and they help create purpose and passion in me to create things that I love to do. So I want you to hear me when I say take from your background. If you already work in the church, if you already work in a counseling agency, if you work with the homeless population, if you work with children, what can you create that's going to add to what it is that you want to do in this ministry of work that you're going to do? So again, here you have your definition, but I really wanted to get that out to you all, like, what can I do with a dissertation? Because I want to take away the sting. Many of you, you're afraid. I hear the fear of doing a dissertation. And then even being in the middle of it, it's like, this seems so big, so bigger than me. But we all know, not to get, super spiritual on you, but it's not bigger than God. So it is doable. And again, I did it. Dr. Tophoven did it. Dr. Ord did it. A lot of people have completed their dissertation. And guess what? You will too. So Christian integration. I want to say this is very important, but at the same time, I want to draw your eyes to the bottom here, if you can see this slide at the bottom, that the dissertation, because some of you notice and some of you don't, it should address areas of relevance as it relates to the Christian faith or worldview. However, your dissertation does not have to be grounded in theology. So yes, we are Regent University. Yes, we are a Christian university. And yes, we believe in, remember that blending of mental health and how faith and religion and spirituality, how those things play a part in the work that we're doing. But this is a component, but it doesn't have to be something where you have to go and become a theology major unless you already are. Okay, so just to understand Christian integration and what we're looking for. So get into now this fun part. Okay, now that I've set the tone, what is this program resource development dissertation? Okay, so remember I talked about these are dissertations that draw on a scholarly body of literature and translate these empirical findings into practice. Taking from the research and creating something that now is hands-on, you can use, you can take to a nonprofit, you can take to a conference, you can take to the community, give back to our church families. This is something that you put into practice. By using them to develop a professional resource, which we're going to talk about, for a specific applied setting. Again, could be a mental health setting, counseling ministry, church setting. You could start your own business. There's so many things that you could do with this work that we're talking about you creating here. Now, we wanted to put as many things up there just to give you an idea. So this is just some of the things that you can create with a program resource development dissertation. Now, for me, I created a curriculum in my dissertation, and I knew I had a specialty coming in. I knew what I wanted to do. I looked through the research and I saw that there was a need for this. There wasn't a lot on the type of marriage work that I was wanting to do. And that really helped me to create my program development dissertation. So for you all thinking about this, think about what you can do with this work. You can create a workshop, a seminar, a series. You're going to hear from me soon about seminar series. This is stuff that now many of us on this side, we do this on a regular basis. And some of you that may work in the field, you may already be doing a lot of this too. Training manuals. Maybe you look at something and it needs some work. And so you create a training manual for how to work with children who have ADHD, children who have Asperger's or autism, clinical intervention, a curriculum, a professional presentation. Voila, we're doing a professional presentation now. An online course. I love creating things. A workbook on a particular topic or issue that's special to you. Remember that passion is really important. A series of psychoeducational handouts, maybe that you may start at your field placement or at your internship or at your current job or church. A series of video trainings or series of trainings teaching people how to do something via Zoom, via face-to-face. You can add things to it, handouts. And then we wanted to also add some technology. So now in the world that we live in, YouTube is a part of life, an application development, AKA an app. A published book or a book chapter, an article. In addition, we really want some of you to, do this work no matter what you choose and really look to try to do something published, get an article. That would be great, okay? And we'd be happy to work with you, okay? An adaptation of a cultural resource. Perhaps there's a really good resource out there and we want to translate it into a different language. Maybe that's one of the things you want to do, or you want to translate it into something that's for adults into a child population. And you pull from the research and figure out how to do that, or for something that is for this population, but you want it to use it for the geriatric population. So these are just a few. I hope I've blown your mind a little bit. I hope I've given you a lot to think about. And we're going to talk about this and we'll let you ask questions, but I want to take away the sting that this is not something that you can't do. For many of you, you've done similar things like this, but now with this, you can add that body of scholarly work and really turn this into a program resource for the community and develop something into a dissertation that is practical, okay? So now let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of all right, Dr. Artis, I hear you, but okay, how do I get this done? So how many pages? The length of the dissertation is at the discretion of the committee overall. However, what we're looking for the body of your manuscript is only about 50 to 60 pages. And I've taught some of you in your classes, and I know you can write that much. I'm pretty sure last term I received something that was about 100 pages, and we were working on a group assignment. So I know you all have it in you. So 50 to 60 pages for the body of that manuscript. Now, that does not include the reference page or appendix pages or tables or anything like that you want to add. And we'll talk about those things in just a second too, okay? I hope you're saying that's doable. What are the components? And these questions that you see here to the left are some of the anticipated questions and some of the questions that we've heard from students. So what are the components? So typically in dissertations, there's 4 main components anyway, okay? For the program resource and development dissertation, that doesn't change. However, there are some differences in those sections and what you can include in those sections. So here we go. You still have Your introduction. You still have your methods, or for program resource and development, it may be called a procedure. You still have your results section, but it may be called your content descriptions. And you still have your discussion section. And then you have your appendix, which is your attachment of the actual resource or whatever it is that you create, okay? I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail. Hold that thought. So some students ask, what is due at dissertation proposal? I have no idea what I'm working on towards proposal. I don't know how to get there. I don't know what you guys are looking for. So what we're looking for is an introduction to the literature, part 1, chapter 1, and a method for your program resource or your procedure. Only those 2 parts, the introduction and the method or procedures for your program resource development project. Doable, okay? Doable, very doable. We'll talk about how you set that date with your chairperson and with your reader, and then you move into proposal, and then we'll talk about the next step, which is what is due at the dissertation defense. So once I finish my proposal, you have some other things you need to work on, and then you get to your defense. What's due? Introduction and methods, as we said. So after that, then you start to work on your results, or in program resource and development. And this project, it actually is also called content descriptions. So you here may be working on your sessions, your workshops, your workbook, whatever it is that you're working on, or choosing from that list that I showed you. That is your actual content. So you're filling in that content of whatever it is you're developing, and you're creating. This is when you're going into true creative mind. You pulled from the research, you've done your literature review, and now I'm creating something. And then you have your discussion, and then your future directions. So which could be implications for future. What do I want to do with it? I want to write an article. There was something missing that we should probably focus on this. It'd be nice if this was also available for other cultures or other age groups, those type of things. And then lastly, you have your formatted resource as the attachment. So you still have to complete whatever the project or the program resource is, and you have to include that fully completed resource as an attachment. Still doable. Still doable. I hope you guys are seeing graduation. I hope you can see through the tunnel. Okay, a few more questions that students ask. What class do I start my dissertation? Dr. Tophoven is going to talk a little bit about some of this in just a little bit, but from this perspective, I'll go ahead and just fill in for this because I want you to stay with me. Students officially began their dissertation process with MHPS 700, okay? However, as I tell students, as I'm mentoring them, you can start your dissertation anytime. You can start your dissertation from day 1. I, for one, came in because I was a non-traditional working student when I came to grad school into my doctoral program. So I had some background and I knew what I wanted to change or what I wanted to give back. And so I had an idea anyway. So every paper, everything that I could find, I was pulling research and pulling resources. So when I say you can start whenever, that's what I mean. You can start pulling research and, reading the literature and trying to help just sort of to figure out where you want to go next. And that way you're not starting day 1 at MHPS trying to figure out an idea. And if that does happen, you can still, that's where you start, okay? But there's more. So this is a general sort of steps. How do I get started with my dissertation? And so students will ask, but what do I do first? So I hear you. You saying I can start anywhere, but what do I do first? So the first thing is we'd like you to choose a dissertation chair and reader. And Dr. Tophoven and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit as well. Students often will say, it really would be helpful just to have a mentor. It would really be helpful just to have somebody to work through all of my thoughts with. Well, that is your team. That's your dissertation committee. That's your dissertation chairperson and your reader. They're going to be experts in the work that you're wanting to do, or experts on dissertation, or experts on APA style writing, experts on the methodology that you're choosing or working on for your dissertation. They're going to be so helpful to you. So having them in the beginning is really useful. Number 2, you're going to complete the dissertation topic form, and Dr. Tophoven, again, we're going to talk a little bit about new things in the dissertation handbook. So at this point, we're going to be wanting students to decide and solidify a dissertation chairperson and a reader. And many of you have seen the dissertation topic form, and complete that. It also asks for your topic. So your topic can change along the way, because the more you're reading through the literature, you're actually learning more about yourself and how you want to focus your dissertation. So we allow flexibility for your dissertation topic, but we do want you to just start thinking about what that is and to put something on paper. And it also helps us to know that you've chosen a chairperson and a reader for that form. In this new process, we'll talk about this. Your dissertation topic form will be due as you go to register for MHPS 700. So before people get in there, they will have worked with us to have a dissertation chair and reader, and that will be solidified. So when they start their class, that part will be done, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Then number 4, in general, you work with your chair and your reader to keep this project progressing through to the proposal and then defense. And then you're going to work with the program faculty and staff to finalize the degree components with the ProQuest and other things that are required, because we don't want you to get tired at the end, because there's a few really important things that you have to finish in order to become doctor and in order for you to get your degree. So that's in general, sort of just to give you an idea of going through that process of dissertation, just to make it a little bit more streamlined. That's what we're hoping to do. And just to take some of the sting, like I said, out of just dissertation being, such a heartbreaker. We want you guys to be excited about your dissertation. So how often should I meet with my dissertation chair and reader? At the discretion of the chair and the reader, there is flexibility there. However, again, these are new things, and that we're also going to have in our dissertation handbook. It is suggested that the chair and the reader and the student meet weekly at the beginning for about 60 to 90 minutes as they're formulating the ideas for the student. Perhaps the student really found great research, they have a good foundation, and they have a lot of good resources around their topic. Great, maybe they don't need as much. However, some students may need a little bit more, but in general, this is what we're looking for. Bullet number 3, the student in the chair will work on the dissertation primarily. So what we're saying here is we really want the chairperson really to take the lead between the two, the chairperson and the reader. The chairperson will take the lead on working with that student on their dissertation. The chairperson, again, and the reader are expected, they're doctoral folks, they're doctoral educated folks, so they are expected to help you with your APA writing, help you with your methodology, and help walk you through that process. Now, you as a student, it's still your responsibility to also keep up with deadlines and keep up with your class and registration and when things are due as well, but you will work primarily with your chair at the beginning, and then you will bring your reader into that process a little bit more as you get closer to the end as well. The student will work with the reader as needed, and we'll talk about that. The meetings with the chair should take place at least twice a month. Some people say, well, do we have to stick to this? What if I need a little bit more time? Well, if students in the beginning, of course, if they need more time, they're processing their ideas, it really is, again, at the discretion of the chairperson and the reader as much how often they meet with the student, and it really depends on what the student's needs are, okay? What should the student be working on in between meetings? Now, we have a lot of students who work, have families, have a lot going on in their lives. We know this. However, we all do. So in between you and your chairperson or your meetings with your reader, we are still expecting you to be working on your dissertation. So according to the Department of Education guidelines, students are expected to work on their dissertation for at least 9 hours per week. And because each dissertation course is 3 credit hours, and a 3 credit hour course requires at least 9 hours of work from the student each week during that 15-week semester, okay? So that's just like, our guidelines. The student's work should consist of creating a draft and then revising the draft project based on the feedback from that chairperson or the reader. So the students are expected to submit a manuscript to the chair every 2 weeks. Then the chairs and the readers have 2 weeks to review and return the revised manuscript to the student for editing. And then it continues until you get to a final version of that chapter or to the proposal or to the defense. We are really hoping and we're pushing the folks that will be working with you, chairpersons and readers, not to go backwards. So like if we've completed things at the proposal stage, we don't really want to go backwards unless that we have to go back and change things from I will be doing this to I completed this. But otherwise, you know, we want to dot all our I's and cross our T's as we go through so that we keep students moving forward and you don't have a million drafts of your dissertation project. We hear you, okay? When will I know my manuscript is ready for proposal? So again, this will be a conversation with your chair after revisions are discussed and made to the dissertation process or project. The student will clear a date with both their chair and reader. Again, students, this is going to be your responsibility. For me, I'm very proactive, so it's really important that you stay up on your dates. It's really important that, you know, that's why we're doing this presentation with you, because we want you to know and be aware. And we really are trying to make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page and everybody understands all the expectations. But, you know, I know you all will be excited to set those proposal dates and excited to set that defense date. So keep up with those things. A final note here is that as you get to the end, students will submit the last draft to their reader 6 weeks before the planned proposal or defense date. This includes 2 weeks from the reader to review, 2 weeks for the student to correct any concerns from the reader, and then an additional reviews or any additional reviews by the reader and chair. And hopefully this doesn't have to continue on, because at this point you're sort of at the end. Some students may ask, well, why 6 weeks? Well, again, there are other things that have to be done before we can complete your graduation. So, you know, students may start to feel a little bit tired here, but don't get tired yet. Don't give up on yourself. You're too close. And remember what I said, there are certain things that have to be done to be checked off of the list. Once you defend your dissertation, there are a few other things that have to be done, and you have to still stay on it because there's some other things that have to be edited for you to go into ProQuest and for you to receive your degree and become doctor, okay? Which is really important. Hold on to that thought. So we'll talk more about this with you or as you're working with your chairperson and reader, but your dissertation project will become a part of the archive of resources for the School of Psychology and Counseling. Remember, we're trying to build more resources where people can see how we're blending mental health and our Christian integration. You'll also work with the program staff so that you can complete the administrative components of the dissertation. And it's very detailed. There's information in the handbook that Dr. Tophoven can talk to you about, or I can answer questions about, but there's very detailed information about what ProQuest is looking for as far as like formatting and those type of things. And that's really important. And then depending on your dissertation and what you like to do and talking to your chairperson and your reader, there's opportunities for you to possibly publish a part of your dissertation or publish in an article, a journal article, or do some other things with your dissertation. So there's other ways to publish in addition to ProQuest. And I just like to throw that out there that students can do those things with their faculty members as well. So we're wrapping up here with my part, and I wrote this little quote because I wanted to continue to keep you guys inspired. But when I think about program resource development dissertation, I really think about that it is something where your preparation, everything that God has poured into you, all of that to bring you to this moment. And my students know I will say, if God ordained you to be here, then he'll see you through. So it's where your preparation and your passion meets practice. And it truly is an opportunity for you to change lives. When you create a program resource and development dissertation, it is something that's going to get published for sure. It's going to get published in ProQuest. It's going to be published. It will be out there. But you also get to create something and take it back to the community. You can create your own center. You can create your own resource to give to leaders in the church and pastors all over the world. You can create a video series that can reach everyone or anyone. And so there's so many things that you can do. And I just love the idea of you being able to create something that pulls from our scholarly research that becomes practical and that you get to put out there that can really change a whole lot of lives. So thank you again for listening to me. I'm going to stop talking now and hand it over to Dr. Tophoven and Dr. Ord.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Artis, for sharing with us the exciting option of doing a program resource development project as a dissertation. I want to make sure we don't go like crazy over time tonight, so we want to keep it to some shorter comments here. I've been answering questions in the chat room all along and have addressed some of the questions already. Keep them coming though. At over 50 people in the room, 63 people, we have want to make sure that you don't leave without having at least posted your question, and Dr. Artis can respond to some of them as well as we are talking. Some of you have already noticed this new process is seemingly a bit shorter, but it is not lacking in scholarly standards and quality. A solid program resource development requires the same scholarly standards that any other project would do. So everybody has to rise to the standard of scholarly work. You will continue to emerge as a scholar with the work that you're doing. We just pivot on the requirements of length, for example, and type of dissertation. So some dissertations don't have to go through human subjects review board approval because you are not conducting necessarily a research project with people. And therefore, some of those do not require HSRC approval. The length of dissertation, you probably remember me in 740 preaching, talking, pleading on scholarly writing and concise writing. Anybody who's taken 740 class, and that's probably all of you and some of you that will be now in the fall, you will hear me talking about writing and expressing your ideas clearly and concisely. Some things can be written in a paragraph instead of 2 or 3 pages. So we want to continue to do that. And so when you write a dissertation or a project that is 60 pages or 50 to 60 pages or 50 to 80 pages, that doesn't mean you're lacking in scholarly, in your scholarly approach. It just means you're really learning how to write concisely and do that well. So that is for some actually not an easy task. So it continues to be a skill to be learned. So I just want to make sure that everyone feels and is up to date on the length of the dissertation. We're not lowering standards. We're actually making sure we are raising them, so we're not getting into the temptation of writing and writing and writing and realizing we're writing a lot of fluff or peripheral stuff. Okay, so very targeted dissertations here. I'm only going to share my screen like for 2 minutes. I'm still decided to just do that for a second here. In the types of dissertation you see here, program resource development, Dr. Artis just really got into some details on that. The critical analysis of the literature is another type of dissertation that is offered, as well as the published peer-reviewed article dissertation, where you are doing you publish an article and upon successful publication, that will count as a dissertation project. So that is new as well. We continue to have quantitative and qualitative projects for those that have a good doable project. They too will have to go by new standards of shorter dissertations and more concise writing. So our focus in today's presentation is on the program and resource development, making sure you know that that is available, and the critical analysis of the literature. Those are some of the 2 things that are really big time news in so many ways. Some have asked me this question. They have asked, I am like already into my qualitative project, for example. Can I still pivot back to a program resource development or critical analysis of the literature? And the answer is yes, you can. Unless you've already conducted research and you're writing up your results. But if you are just before proposal and you really say, I would like to use my work so far and recalibrate it towards a program resource development, for example, or I just talked to a student this afternoon who wants to do a critical analysis of the literature, using her literature work or review that it's been done so far, that is possible. You need to set up a time with a person, with a chair that you've been working with. If you don't have a chair yet, that has happened as well for some of you. That is literally being addressed now every day as we are carefully selecting and hiring new dissertation chairs and readers for our program. So all these things can be discussed. For some, again, that requires a one-on-one conversation, but nobody's forced to pivot. It's an offer. So consider it like we just added new ice cream flavors to our ice cream shop, and you get to pick some more, even though you may have already picked chocolate. You may be able to take that out and put vanilla in it and strawberry or whatever. Okay, I'm taking this too far. I'm going to stop my my picture here.
Can I add something here? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Sure. So yes, so for those of you who are in the boat right now, who are starting on the project, already started, maybe you are almost done with your intro, maybe method. For those of you who already proposed, submitted your HSRC, you're collecting data, it's probably a little late to pivot, right? Because HSRC already told you this is what you're going to do. So proceed with that. We'll support you however we can.
Of course.
But for any of you who have not proposed yet, even if your proposal is scheduled, in 4 to 6 weeks, all of these options are available for you guys effective immediately. So like as of today, as of whenever the dissertation handbook had been sent out, all of those options are available. And some of you may just want to say, hey, I want to pivot whatever I've written into critical analysis of literature and get it done in a couple more semesters. Go for it, do it. A good dissertation is a done dissertation, right? If you're thinking I can apply it into a program resource type project, go for it. And we are happy if there's a lot of you in this boat who are not sure how exactly to do it. We're happy to maybe set up another drop-in hours or Q&A, Zoom. I'm happy to be there. I'm very active participant in this process, developing this new process. So set up time with me. Most of you know me. I've taught you, at least a class or two in this program. We can do group like this again. Me and Dr. T, me and Dr. Artis, Dr. Garzon is involved. So we're happy to walk you through how to pivot, but it should be doable for all of you in pre-proposal stage.
Thank you, Dr. Ort. So the critical demarcation line is HSRC. If you already have that, then you are in data collection and you've been approved, so proceed. And everyone else, really, there are some of these, you can think about this. And some of you and I, we've had these conversations already, and we'll just continue them, make sure that we pivot with a good plan in place, and that is absolutely doable. So yeah, so that's really the gist of it, what we wanted to cover today. We will at Regent and in this department, you will have one chair and one reader. We will have the chairs be Regent hired adjunct or faculty that we have available now. Many of you do have a chair, some don't, and so we're working on that. These are also ongoing conversations that change from day to day right now, in that you are going to have your chair in place. Some of you asked, are outside readers acceptable? If an outside reader adds to the content and is someone that could really add to your project, it's approved by us, then that can be an option, but we usually look first in-house in that respect. So that's just a reminder of dissertation committees. There's a set way of, there's a set size basically here. Yeah, there's other things here that we're not going to do today. I will do a little separate recording with how to address the process. But those students that are starting this fall can take advantage of even the new process, and the old process are students that we have right now that are in dissertation classes and in dissertation projects. But everybody can, if you haven't done HSRC yet and you're not in data collection, you can pivot. So that was the big message tonight.
And just one more item I wanted to add regarding readers and chairs. We absolutely welcome if you find someone, let's say you worked with, they were in your previous department, previous school you went to, or a colleague of yours or supervisor or whatever, and you believe they would be qualified to be a chair or a reader for your dissertation, let us know who they are, connect us with them. From the admin standpoint, we may need to do a couple of things. We want to make sure everybody who's a reader or a chair, is in agreement with Regent's mission, statement of faith, things like that. If they are going to be a chair, we may need to bring them on, like Dr. T said, as an adjunct, but that's very doable. We may come up with a special contract for them or something like that. But in my master's program, I've had students find chairs and readers themselves from previous schools. We're happy to do this. Just start that conversation with us sooner rather than later. And we can start that process for you, look into them and see if we can approve them. Somebody you found outside for a chair and reader, we're happy to look into them.
Yes, thank you very much. Just for clarification on that. So yeah, just today I had 2 outside readers, sending them, connecting with them and having that kind of conversation to see if it's a good fit. And of course, talking with the student and the already existing chair to make sure, because they're going to form a committee and they're going to be talking to each other on a regular basis. So those kind of things then can be moved forward so your committee can be completed. So we're definitely open to that. So yeah, so that's all I have right now. Dr. Artist, Dr. Ord, is there anything else that we should need to add to this particular meeting?
I would like to hear from students because it's a resource for them. We are a resource for them to see if there's any questions we can answer for them.
Yeah, so we've been fielding questions in the chat room, and maybe we hear some live questions or added chat room questions. Yeah, we have still 62 in here. So yes. Questions right now that you want to ask live here.
I'm going to start with Lindsay. Lindsay, I wasn't sure if your hand was up by mistake, but I see I put it down and you put it back up.
No problem.
Let's start with you, and anyone else with questions, if you'll do the same, if you'll just put your hand up, and then we will call on you so that we can get a few questions before we wrap up for tonight's session. Okay, go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you. Well, first off, thank you so much for just creating the space in your schedules for this. This is profoundly helpful. So I just want to say thank you for that. I had a question. This is more of a practical question about the dissertation topic form that we need to be submitting. So I'm beginning 700 in just a few weeks yet at the start of the fall semester. I have my proposed topic ready. Do I need to submit that if I don't have my official chair yet? Or from an administrative side, am I getting ahead of myself? Should I do that before 700? I know that I'm in a weird middle ground because technically the handbook is brand new, but the handbook says that I should have this submitted. So I just want to make sure I'm staying on top of it.
Very good question. Thank you for addressing that. That was Lindsay, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
How's the kids? Okay.
Can you hear them in the background?
No, I can't, but I know you got a bunch. So I wanted to, yeah, so the question, like, do I submit my dissertation topic and defense, submit my form before MHPS 700? That will be the new standard in the future as we're going into that process. In this particular group coming into fall 21 with MHPS 700, we'll have a little bit of a hybrid going on. My goal is to get everyone that is starting MHPS 700 this fall into a committee and have a topic agreed upon that they can launch into 700 as if, you know, they're fully in the new process. Sometimes you have a high goal and you may not completely reach it. So nobody will, you know, we always work with every student, every situation, because we are shifting the process. We are in the process of adopting a new process. This will be a little bit of a hybrid. Again, many of you will, I've already scheduled some meetings with some of you to discuss your topic and your committee. And hopefully we get many forms ready before we actually get into 700. But I am totally aware and understand that maybe some will need a few weeks into 700 in the fall to get that process going. Really depends where you at right now. Yeah.
So if I have a pretty good idea of who my chair is going to be, it hasn't been officially assigned by you though. How do I submit that form? I guess that's my confusion.
Send an email to me and suggest, you know, give me the names and what you're thinking. I know I sent an email out to everybody in 700 already about topics they're thinking about, so we can have this conversation. And then establishing the committee is, you know, is a process we want to do immediately alongside the topic that you are dealing with, or the choice of the type of dissertation that you are wanting to do. So the next steps would be send me an email, we'll set up a meeting, and I will try to do that with each student going into 700 and see if we can get the form and the committee formed before we start, or definitely early in the first weeks of 700.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for asking that question.
Okay, we have then Sherry, Scott, and then Maxine, Emmanuel.
What's up, y'all? All right, I'm getting ready to go out on a date, so I'm trying to hurry up. Anyway, I am the ADD one of the group, and I don't do well if I don't have an example or a sample. Are there any samples out there that we could look at to?
Yes. I'll send you samples.
Yes.
You know me too well. It's been 4 long years, hasn't it, Dr. T?
I'm totally fine, as long as you're fine.
I'm always fine.
We're gonna get everyone to the finish line, and we'll make some samples available to everyone, okay?
Yes. We'll make
Cool, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone who is interested in that too, Dr. Ord has provided some samples. And then also, now that you know this type of project, you can also, you know, now go to the dissertation database and look up program resource or program development type dissertations and start to do a little bit of research. I see Dr. Ord just unmuted. You want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this. I do think now that we have so many of you guys, we probably want to have some kind of like a Google Drive or Drop. That's what I use in my, you know, all of those who take the appraisal class with me, you guys know my Google Drive. So I think we might want to set up something like that and drop. There are dozens out there. If you go to ProQuest and you look at dissertations that have been published, look at, you know, bigger schools like Pepperdine has a number of those. Fuller has program and resource development as an option. And we will drop a whole bunch of those. I have a couple dozen for critical lit review, for program development, we'll drop them in there. Those are just examples. The sky is the limit, so you can be creative. You have parameters in your handbook of what they are, and we don't want to limit your creativity, but we'll give you some samples in some kind of a drop box, Google Drive type situation.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Ord.
Yeah, so that was the plan to, of course, do something that's available to everyone. I've been sending some out to some of you where we've had conversations. And so after today's meeting, we'll create something that you can access. And then, of course, you are all good at doing your own research, so you can obviously access the dissertation, the ProQuest dissertation abstracts, and look at what's available already. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there.
All right, Maxine?
Well, I just want to say congratulations, Dr. Ortiz, on your hosting the Ministry of Counseling Seminar Series.
Oh, thank
I
you.
wanted to congratulate Dr. Orr for being the Dean of Psychological Counseling.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I really loved her when she taught me in my class.
I miss you in my classes.
Yes.
I miss you.
So I just want to say thank y'all and congratulations, ladies. And I don't have any questions because y'all just answered everything just then.
Good.
Have a blessed night.
We have a meeting, so
That's
mine
good.
is immediately following this group meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I don't see any other hands.
Abram says he has a question.
Oh,
Abram,
Abraham.
do you want to?
Yes, I have a question. You said some of the people are saying that they already have a chair and a reader, they're meeting after this, but I don't have anyone yet. That's one thing. The second one is, I'm not sure whether there are enough literature available for the topics that I have sent you. So how do I proceed?
What you do, Abraham, you before you send maybe some topic and ideas, and ideally your focus and direction for research is burst from your readings in the literature. So why don't you do some looking at the literature around your topic and see if maybe you can, you and I together when we talk, come up with, first of all, a type of dissertation and then a focus. When you cannot find research around a certain population, and from what I recall about your topics, we're dealing with a special population or a certain population. That doesn't mean it hasn't been done before. It's usually everything has been done before, just slight variations around, focus of participants or population and things like that. And for you as well as a pastor, Abraham, I think some of these resource development or critical analysis pieces would come in quite handy, I would imagine. So let's have a conversation on that and just send me an email so we can schedule something. Okay.
And I just want to piggyback on that as well. If you guys already have an idea of your chair or reader, or they're not like set in stone, please, yes, let Dr. T and Sylvia know, because we have a spreadsheet going so that we can just put you down as tentative, even if they're not in the system. Let's work on that. So that's great and helpful. So if you don't have one, we're working on that as a team, nonstop, 24/7. We're working on that. We'll get you some chair committee members soon. And this is an excellent question, right? A lot of times we ask you to do something that has not been done before, right? And yet we're asking you to review literature. So that's all of us in the dissertation process have been in that tension. And so what I advise students to do is a cohort mate of mine, when she was doing her dissertation, she was doing on specifically application, an app, technological app for, a specific disorder. And there was none. At that point, there was very little literature on any apps. That was, 15 years ago, whatever. There was very few apps on, psychological disorders. And so she had like 3 articles that were relevant to her in her field, right? So she reviewed, of course, those. So review all 5 articles you have in your field on that. But then you can also broaden that out, right? You can talk about just that particular disorder. You can talk about what else has been done. And another example I have is I'm working with one of your colleagues right now on a dissertation on resilience in marriages where one partner is Russian immigrant and one is American. And there's like 3 articles total on that particular specific marriage. But we write literature review on resilience more broadly. We have a section on
Dr. Ord, you went out.
Right?
I think
Cultural marriages broadly. So
Dr. Ord, you're going out. You're probably in a trend.
Dr. Ord,
your literature view, you want to talk broad. Sorry, am I back? Am I not?
Give it a shot.
I don't know if I'm back,
the last,
but you guys can take it from here. You guys can take it from here. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
No,
here.
I think
Oh, can you guys hear me? Yes, no? All right.
okay.
But I'm good. You guys take it from here. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna add to what I think Dr. Ord.
go ahead. Share a little bit of that. I had to mute her because we couldn't hear more than half. So
Okay.
but we heard the gist in the beginning of it, and so
I wanted to add to what Abraham was asking and what Dr. Ord was saying, because I think a lot of students have the same concern. Two things. One is how to choose a topic. And the second thing is, I think a lot of students think that, well, there's not a lot of research. That's normal because you're creating something new. So I know sometimes it sounds and seems discouraging when you go to the literature and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't find anything. I want you guys to know that's completely normal. There's not supposed to be a lot, because remember, you're adding to. And say you're doing something like on, Dr. Ord talked about Russian and American marriages. Well, you might take that and look at Russian marriages. You might take that and look at American marriage and education, and you may then look at, say, what curriculums are already out there. So that might be 3 sets of or types of research that you do to bring it all together to create something for, I don't know, Australian American marriages. So, but you have to look at the research and you have to pick through it. You have to pick pieces. There's no perfect example. You're not just typically, maybe miracles happen. You may go to the research and find that perfect group of research. Marriage and family is as huge as it is. Many times you still don't find specifically what it is that you're looking for. So you still have to go and pick through the research to say, okay, give me a little bit of church ministry and any research. Let me look at like I have a group of people who are doing like church ministry. You might have to look at research that's out there on clergy, but also look at research on clergy with mental health issues. Then you have to look at research where how many churches actually have curriculum-based projects in their churches. So you have to pick through the literature to bring it all together to then create what it is that you want to do. So I want you guys to hear that there's no easy process. Don't be discouraged if you don't find a lot, on your perfect topic. It doesn't work that way, okay?
Yeah.
And to Abraham, I just wanted to say, and to everyone who is those folks who are still trying to decide on a topic, again, remember what I said about passion. Remember what I said about who you are. Many of you bring so much to the program. You bring so much of your experience to who you are. Many of you are adding these degrees to what you've already done, 5, 10 years of experience in various fields, and add on your personal life. Many of you have been caregivers. Many of you have been moms or dads or uncles or aunts or whatever. And look at those pieces of who you are and what you want to create, especially when it comes to program resource and development. Make it something that works for you. Make it something that you can be proud of. And I heard Dr. Tophoven talk about Abraham, you already being in the church. What literature is missing? What's missing? I would ask all of you that. What is something I want to give back to? I want to give a voice to. I want to make it better. I want people to have these resources. Think like that as you're thinking about a topic. And you can choose anybody to brainstorm with, anybody to mentor you to help you come up with a topic. Okay? That's all.
Very good. Very good stuff. Thank you so much, Dr. Artis. There's so much out there. The problem is sometimes we get overwhelmed at the choices. It's like a kid in a candy store. And if you like candy, you're like, oh my gosh, so many things. But you have to pick one. And so that is, it's about selecting. It's about your calling. It's about your passion. It's about all of these things. And I've already said in the chat that, hey, a lot of the work or the reading, some of the projects and the papers you've done in classes as you progress through the program probably can be utilized. And what is missing is a great question. But one thing I want everyone to remember, to emerge as a scholar, you have to give yourself some mental space to become a scholar. That means there's no shortcut. That means if you're not reading, you're not becoming a scholar. So I'm saying that in that de facto kind of way, because there is a need to have depth in reading in order to understand what is out there, what is not out there. Sometimes our fears and anxieties are overtaking us because we haven't looked at what's out there in the much needed depth that is required to understand what is out there. And so if you have a topic and you have an interest area, it is something where you gather your research and your readings and just start reading. I've run 9 marathons, and if you ever plan for a marathon, you can talk about it. You can plan it with a friend at the dinner table. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. But then you get to work, and then you plan your runs and you do your morning 5 a.m. runs to avoid the heat in South Texas. There's so much that then is like how do you say in English, where the rubber meets the road kind of thing. It's like, just start reading and God will give you direction and make things click. And you have a grounding in your readings that will very much help you as well. And you've all done a lot of reading in this whole course, in this whole program already. Many of you have already a dissertation topic probably in your head, at your fingertips. It just needs to be put together and structured a little bit. And we'll definitely help you with that. So having said that, I think we can start the end of this, unless was there anything more in the chat room we missed?
Nope, I just covered the last of that.
Okay.
I'd like to close us out in prayer. And then those of you who I see some of you are scheduling meetings with Dr. Tophoven. You guys can take care of that. Those of you who already have chairpersons and readers, if you have questions for Dr. Tophoven or myself, let us know. And we're happy to schedule meetings with them to go over this process. If they're outside of Regent, those who are inside of Regent will already be explaining this process to them. Those of you already have a chairperson at Regent like myself, and someone mentioned that I have a meeting with my group after this, but I'll be talking to you. We'll be proactive in getting in touch with you to share more about this process. And yes, the video will be accessible. We'll ask Sylvia to try to send it out to all of you.
All right, wonderful. Who's praying to end?
I'll pray to end. If you all will pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for this fellowship. I thank you for this opportunity to come together. I thank you for all the students that are here with us tonight. I thank you for Dr. Tophoven and Dr. Ord. I thank you for just allowing us to create and come together and get this information and make it practical and make it doable. We thank you for every student. We thank you for every purpose. We thank you for everything that they're going through, Lord. You know their heart, you know their minds, you know what's on their plate. Lord, we hope that we have eased their anxiety and let them see that this is done, Lord. To everyone that's listening, Lord, let them know, let them be confident to know that you have ordained this. You have ordained their dissertation topic. You have ordained their degree and everything that comes with it. You ordained them from beginning to end. You said that you started this, so we know you'll finish it. We thank you for all that you're doing. We ask that you give them the strength to finish strong, not to get weary, not to get tired, but to finish this thing that you started in them and to take it and to run with it. We thank you for all that you do. We thank you for tonight. Give Dr. Ord traveling mercies. Give us all the strength to endure all the things that we're doing right now. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr.
Amen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, students.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, and my group will stay on. God bless you all.
It